well as pre-existing. It is a really good program to work. That works, excuse me. For myself, I'm going to teach you the way I interpreted the Bible of Coordinator's Guide. This is the Coordinator's Guide that I ordered from Postmasters.org that gave me all the information that I'm going to present to you tonight. I put it into a nicer format. I know it's a nicer format. And by the time you get done here, I will email you tomorrow with all of your example agendas, every form that you possibly could use so you can have a program as well. I'm trying to make it turnkey so that more problems can be suggested. That's the idea behind it. So what is Speechcraft? This is where you hopefully will be the chair of your club Speechcraft program. And as the chair, you are going to make a couple big decisions on your Speechcraft. The first one you're going to do is you're going to make a decision on how many weeks do you want to run your Speechcraft program. How many attendees do you want to attend? The roles that your club members or other people in your club are going to have to do. But also, as the chairperson, you're going to decide what you can charge people for attending your Speechcraft. You can do it anywhere from free all the way up to whatever amount you want to charge. And then the big thing is how to drive, how to advertise. So the first thing I want to talk about is your chair's responsibility. And with it, right under the agenda, I put together, and I apologize, my ink started to run out a little bit as I was busy. But I did put together a list of everything that you need to do if you want to choose to have an 8-week, a 6-week, or a 4-week Speechcraft. So what is the difference between all of them? Why would I choose to have a 4-week Speechcraft versus an 8-week or a 6-week? If you're doing an 8-week, those can be done in a 1-hour session. My home club, it's over the lunch hour. We do it for 1 hour. We chose to take 8 weeks every year out of our club, put on a Speechcraft. So every week for 8 weeks, we do a Speechcraft, and that means that none of the members can do speeches other than educational speeches. That's a dedication that my club has made, and the decision that we made as a club to make sure that we get more members in, and also engages our current members. 6 weeks, it's recommended that we have an hour to an hour and a half meeting. Make sure that you get through everything. 4 weeks, it's recommended for an hour and a half to 2 hours for a meeting to get through everything. So those are the types of decisions you're going to want to make. You want to have it during your club meeting time. Usually that's recommended because the people that are available to come to your Speechcraft are people who can be able to come to your Speechcraft. You want to do it in 8-week sessions, you want to do it in 4 sessions, 6 sessions, so those are some of the decisions you're going to have to make. On this spreadsheet that I created is the roles that are going to apply. And how I use this is, for instance, tonight we'll be going through an 8-week session. And that's the top one. On week 1, we need to have an educational speech called Selecting a Topic. You're going to need an evaluator. Don't have the topics that week. A speech evaluator, timer, counter, and I list of all the members of your club coordination. But what I do is I put this agenda together ahead of time so that all the members of the club know the responsibilities for each of the 8 weeks. Any questions on the spreadsheet and how that works? kind of,
Don't know enough yet to ask a question.
Yeah.
Probably take a little while.
I got one right away for the, so according to your sheet here, for the 8-week, 1-hour meeting, are you just doing one speaker at each meeting?
we are, yes. So out of 6 weeks, you put 2 speeches, educational speeches, in the first 2 weeks, and then 1 speech there every week after.
The 6-week option, is it trying to do 2 the first 2 weeks, or is it whichever you want to do?
It's whichever way you choose to do it. Like I mentioned, this is my interpretation of the coordinator's guide. If you read this coordinator's guide and you feel you want to do it differently, yeah, this is the base guideline. I kind of interpreted the way I felt was best for my club. And I still follow the general rules of the Toastmasters Coordinator's Guide. But if you find that it might be something different for your club, you can definitely do it that way. So as you can see, there is a speech that members are going to do each week in an 8-week session. So that means you'll have 7 different speakers from your club that will be doing speeches on different subjects. What we've done is picked out the most experienced speakers or most experienced Toastmasters and had them do speeches on specific topics. The first year we did this, as I sat there listening to other people do their speeches, I was actually learning a lot. I did not know a lot about selecting a topic or how to organize a speech. And I learned a lot of information from what my fellow members were presenting. So that's what engaging the rest of the membership is about. The next thing you want to make a decision on, is after you make the number of weeks, is how many people do you want to attend? And the first year we did this, I would love to have 50 people there. That'd be great. I want as many people as I possibly can. Unfortunately, that's probably not the best thing. Last year, Julie put it together for us, and we had 12 people participate in our Speechcraft. That was way too many people. What you want to do is for every attendee that's there is you want to assign a person that's a member of your club to be their mentor. To somebody that can help them with each one of the speeches that they do. So for every attendee, you want a mentor or an experienced club member to be with them and to help them through their speeches. Having 12 people means that you have to dedicate 12 people that have to come for 8 weeks straight. That can be a challenge. So start thinking about how many people would be for your club.
In regards to that, if we have the mentors that are showing up every week, can they double up as speakers, evaluators, timers, etc.?
Yep. So when we had the year that we had 12, I actually was mentoring 3 different Speechcraft participants. That was a little bit more of a challenge, and I don't feel like I did the best job for each participant. I couldn't spend dedicated time with each one of them. So therefore, it's best just to have one-on-one if you can. So that's why I'm saying try to limit how many Speechcraft participants. At the end of each session is when the Speechcraft participant meets with their mentor, and the last 15 minutes of your meeting is dedicated usually to going through any questions that they have and working on the next week's assignment. Does that answer?
Right. Yeah, and so there's not because there's the times at the end that they're working together, there's not really the overlap. If there's a timer for the rest of the meeting, it's not going to overlap.
Right, exactly. So that is the number of attendees. Now there's going to be roles that are going to need to be filled by your club members. Those are your counter, your timer, your speaker, and the speech evaluator. You as the chair will be the Toastmaster every week for 8 weeks. just so that you can be consistent with what you're providing to the participants. That's something I guess my club has chosen to do, just to show consistency. If your club wants to have a different Toastmaster each week, they can do what they'd like, but we found that to be the easiest. So one of the things you're going to want to do is go through this spreadsheet and have everybody assign a different role the weeks that they're going to be participating and what they're going to be doing. For my club, this was really nice because based upon this, we were able to create the agenda. And since all you guys are here and I have your email addresses, I will be emailing you the sample agendas for 8 weeks, 6 weeks, and 4-week sessions. In the agenda, I did a sample one for week 1 of an 8-week session. So we have a call to order, the opening remarks, any introductions, distribution of Speechcraft materials, so just general information, and then the educational portion. So each time you have a session, a Speechcraft session, you will have an educational speaker except for the last time, which is the graduation day. On the back, we do give our club information. If by chance that person is not able to attend any other future sessions, if they have this with them, they have our contact names, numbers, everything else. So it's important to have your contact information if this is the only piece of paper that they take with them. Any questions on the agendas?
I actually do have one question.
Yeah.
You have pre-admission on the front. Is that specifically for this example, or?
That was for this example. So now that's good because that brings me into my next section is what do you charge? My club has done it free of charge. It's good and bad. Good is you get people interested. They want to come, it's free. Bad part is they come the first time, they realize what it is, and they're out. They don't want to do public speaking, they don't want to do it. For some reason, they don't show up again. I can't explain why. I like to think we put on a good program, but for some reason, they don't show up again. Other clubs charge $45. What is $45? 6 months membership dues. Sign up for Speechcraft, I'll give you a free membership at the end. I mean, it's a good deal. And you get your members to sign up. I shouldn't say 45, it's depending upon what part of the 6-month cycle you're in, but to be a quick example, $45 is a 6-month membership. Whatever the membership is, that's what you charge. There's other clubs I've heard charge $20, and that $20 goes toward their membership. So if it is $45, the person wants to become a member afterwards, they charge them an additional $25. That $20 gets automatically applied. It's your choice on what way you want to do it. If you want to charge $30 and provide lunch, you can do that. You can pick and choose which options that you want to do. I don't know next year if we're going to do the free or not for my club, just because we had so many people show up for the first couple and then never show up again. There's no dollar commitment involved with it. People aren't as willing and committed to it. The last thing I wanted to talk about, and I'm actually going really fast on all of this, way ahead of schedule, is how to advertise. There's a lot of different ways you can advertise. And one of the flyers that Julie actually put together, thank you, Julie, is a flyer that we mail out. So my club does this for January and January resolutions. So for every January 1st, right after the first of the year, we mail out, is it your resolution to become a better public speaker? If so, come to our Speechcraft session. We've had success in having it at the beginning of the year. I know other clubs do it throughout the year, but this is one of the ploys that my club has used. But throughout the year, you can do it many different ways. I've heard of people doing it in the community newspaper or community ed, where, say if you're in the Minnetonka area, Minnetonka Community Ed schools, you advertise it, charge $45, have an 8-week session, and advertise it that way. So as a adult community education or adult enrichment programs. We've mailed these to all the businesses near our club, and we have had people come in off of that. We sent them to all HR directors at the companies in our area. I don't know if there's any other additional suggestions on ways you could find people, but usually posting something like this up in your company break room, inviting friends, whatever it may be, is a great option as well. Dave, you have any additional ideas of ways we can get people?
You know, word of mouth is always a great way. You know, it's one of the great things. I know when I was in a corporate club before, and we put up table tents in the lunchroom, and that, you know, just getting the word out, and then having someone to reach out to locally. So those are great ways. If your company has an intranet, or if your HR department has, you know, a newsletter, you know, if you can get out on the company newsletter, that's a great opportunity. You know, for the community clubs, coffee shops, you know, local establishments where people hang out. I think they call them bars, but I wouldn't know, but.
Some that actually work at libraries.
Libraries, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
libraries.
Yep.
Another great spot,
Yeah.
Meetup is another one.
Mhm.
Obviously, we've done Eventbrite tonight for this. That is another option. One of the ways that we had visitors is by posting on the D106 TM website. Is we did not promote anything specifically or get the people to come in, but there was another club that was doing a Speechcraft. They had overfilled, and they sent some of their people over to our meeting, which was very nice. Share the wealth. I appreciated that. But there is, so you definitely want to advertise on the d106tm.org website. A lot of the times when you have your members helping out with things, they don't quite understand what is needed for them to be an advisor or a mentor or another participant. I did pull up how to be a Speechcraft advisor, and I've shared this with the people who I had assigned as mentors. So if you get 6 participants and you have 6 members that are committed to being their mentor for those anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks, depending upon what you choose, I would provide them with this information so that they understand what they need to do to be a mentor for that participant. As in most Toastmasters things, we do want to appreciate the people that come in. At the end of the 4 weeks, 6 weeks, or 8 weeks, we want to have a celebration or a graduation for the people who have completed the Speechcraft program. My club creates certificate of appreciation or of achievement. We actually run to the dollar store, put them in nice $1 frames, and present it with a balloon or flowers or something to the sort. Something that usually Marvel picks up. And we present it and make a potluck and have a big ordeal because of their graduation. but something to thank them and appreciate that they've come. And of course, at that point, you ask them to become a member and ask them to join the club. And if you're charging money, then you automatically put them into your membership. Any questions on the information? Joe?
So I have a question. I'm still confused as to when the participants speak through the
Oh,
Speechcraft workshop. So it looks like the members are doing all the meetings for the 8-week program, so the members are doing the speeches. When do the participants do a speech?
okay. Great question. Thank you. I apologize. I didn't really talk about that all that much. So the participants, so you as the coordinator are going to get your own guide. The participants are also going to receive a workbook. And the workbook is going to help them with doing their speeches. First week, there's going to be no speeches done by the participants. By the time you reach week 2, the participants are going to be doing their icebreaker speech. That icebreaker speech is going to have an evaluator who is their mentor. That mentor will be evaluating them. And at the end of session 2, you'll do a recap, the evaluation, and we'll start preparing them for the next speech that they're going to do, which is going to be on the 3rd week. And this is where logistically, if you have a lot of people and you have to break it down to 4 speakers on a day because you're trying to fit everything into an hour, this is where having people, less participants is a little bit more effective. You're trying to cram 12 people to do a speech in one day, that's not the ability, you don't have the ability to do that. So you're kind of hurting everybody. No?
How is your experience? Is the participants by session 2 are ready to do icebreaker? What have you seen, like if you have fresh people, right, participants, are they ready in session 2 to do icebreaker? Yes.
Yeah. So the idea behind it, obviously with any Toastmasters event, is with the icebreaker, the idea is just to get up there and talk about yourself for 4 to 6 minutes. So it is very simple, hopefully for them, and the idea is just to get them out of the nerves, get the nerves out so that they can feel comfortable doing a speech. It is a crash course in Toastmasters. A lot of people get a little antsy and nervous, so don't be surprised by nervous energy that goes through the room. But it is a crash course in Toastmasters. Yeah, Dave?
After you get past the icebreaker, are you working out of manuals then, or are the participants, what do they do next? How do you set the speeches up after that?
The way the speeches are set up is the first speech is the icebreaker. The next one is organize your speech. It goes along the old competent communicator manuals. The third one is get to the point, body language, vocal variety. If you ever, the maximum we've ever done was 3 speeches for our clubs, but I guess it depends upon how many participants you have.
Because I had always heard that when you get done with Speechcraft, you would be a competent communicator. So I was wondering.
That is not true.
I was like,
Yes.
again.
Yeah. By the time the person gets done with the Speechcraft, they should have done 3 speeches at minimum, but it depends upon how many participants you're going to have in your sessions. If you have a lot of participants, the less speaking time they're going to have. The lesser participants, the more speaking time they'll have. So you can get up to 4 speeches, I believe. I have to look at it again. The maximum my club has ever done is 3, just because of time.
So the session time, I see through this agenda is 1 hour, right? So that's pretty standard, and 2 speeches in one session, or
So for the participants,
in general, I guess it shouldn't matter whether they are I mean, like whenever you're running a Speechcraft session for 6 weeks, in each session, would you recommend like 2 speeches, just what we do regularly, or there can be more.
Yeah, so the times that we had a lot of participants, we actually narrowed, instead of having a 5 to 7 minute speech for them, we brought them down to 4 to 6 so that we could get more people in during that time frame. And the more I've learned about it and the more I've done it, I'm trying to limit the number of participants to 6 people. That seems to be a little bit easier to manage, and then people have enough speaking time.
So would there be another column on here that is how many speeches that the participants are doing? You have the speeches that the members are doing.
Yes. And the agendas that I sent out, will send out to you, will have a listing of the members. It's going to change based upon how many members or participants you have. If you have 5 participants, you want to have all 5 of them do a speech in one day, you're going to probably narrow the number of minutes that they speak to fit into your time
So
frame.
if they're doing 3 speeches, what are they?
They're doing the icebreaker, they're doing the organize your speech and get to the point.
While we're on the topic, can I just interject for just a second? So as we all know, Pathways is now what Toastmasters uses. And so if someone does become a member after Speechcraft, these speeches are not applicable to Pathways. They would then start on their Pathways journey after they paid the fee and had chosen their path, taken the assessment and chosen their path. So prior, those speeches could be used in the Competent Communicator Manual for those first 3 speeches. That is not the case now. This is its own 3 speeches that they can learn from, and then they start their.
The icebreaker.
I'm going to interrupt that real quick. I apologize. I did get this from Toastmasters, is that the icebreaker does count.
Yes.
So if we do have a participant that does join, they fill out this form and their icebreaker will count towards their first speech in Pathways.
One thing, and it's exactly what Ben said, but it's just a simple clarification. When you're explaining that the icebreaker counts towards it, the other 2 speeches still have a lot of value. And you know that just getting up and presenting in front of a group is a big step for a lot of people. So learning how to organize your speech and get to the point, these are still valuable skills, and the Speechcraft program provides those skills to people who are thinking about joining Toastmasters. Once they do, they'll enroll in a path, and those skills will be put to use right away. And they'll relearn some of those skills in different modules, but that is, it is just as valuable a program as it was in the legacy system with it's the basic foundation of getting up and giving a presentation.
Thank you, Dave. The last thing I had in your packet was a sample page from the coordinator's guide. It is the one with the staple on the corner. And this is how I put together my spreadsheet of what to do and how I put together the agendas for our club meetings, our Speechcraft meetings. Is I went through each session and I looked at what the outline is of what they had that we had to get accomplished. And then that's where I put together my agenda from. So when you do purchase the Toastmasters packet for Speechcraft, which is $20, I believe, on Toastmasters.org. Once you do purchase that, you will get a coordinator's guide. Let me show it to you. Coordinator's guide. And you will get 5 of the workbooks for 5 participants. You will also get the flyers that are here, as well as this one. I'm sorry, Brian, I'm just looking at all your stuff. But it does give you the information that you need to put on your own Speechcraft. What I've done is I've tried to put it into a little bit more turnkey. So by the time, if anybody wants, and you've been signed up on Eventbrite, I will email you all the information in these packets as well as all of the different agendas, so you don't have to recreate the wheel. All right. I am way ahead of schedule. How does this happen in Toastmasters? I usually talk my ear off.
So coordinator and chair, you're using synonymously.
Pardon me?
You're saying coordinator and you're saying chair. It's the same person.
Yes. Yeah.
I have a question. As VP of Ed, am I allowed to give credit to mentors in either their CL manual or in pathways for serving as a mentor during the Speechcraft project?
That's a good question. I'm not quite sure. You have to mentor them through 3 speeches, is that correct?
That is correct. It specifically says members, so I don't know that.
That it's mentor a new member
Yep. So
through
I
their
would say
first
no.
3 speeches, so.
So if they join, then would it count?
Probably that icebreaker.
But they're not members at that point.
It would count, I would presume it would count in the confident leadership manual, definitely. As far as pathways is concerned, it would have to count if it did it all under the certified mentor program. And the only way that would count would be if one of your members is taking the certified mentor program, they have a short-term mentor that they need to mentor, and they have a long-term. The long-term is 6 months. Short-term runs 2 to 3 months, or a large leadership project. They need to meet with their protege. They call that protege now instead of mentee. It's now protege. And they must meet with them for 2 hours each month to qualify. That is in the Pathways program. Does that help?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Mike?
Just possibly irrelevant here, but we are considering allowing a new member. We have a monthly club. We're going to run it week to week. We're considering allowing a new member to run through the program as well so that they can get a lot of speeches in a hurry. In that case, I'm thinking they would be a member. I'm thinking such a person that's mentoring them could get credit in the old as a CL project. It's a little bit of a different situation.
I agree.
And if you are charging $45 or whatever the membership fee is, the 6 months or whatever the charge is, you're charging that, then you sign them up as a member the day that they come on board with Speechcraft. Once they've paid, they become a member that day. Does that make sense?
I actually think that our plan is actually to charge $45, $50 for people. But if they don't, we are going to spend that money on things like food and whatnot. So if they decide not to join the club, we don't want to have the club eat that out of pocket and just pay for them for a membership they're not going to use. So the plan would be at the end for us personally. And I also think that you can continue them as a mentor ongoing anyways. And if they need that CL credit, they'll get it. That's my perspective.
I would steer away from creating false members. You know, if they're not interested in joining Toastmasters,
Okay.
don't sign them up as a member.
Yeah. So
Yeah, excited about
all
it.
those online, if you didn't hear that,
Yeah.
then don't do what I mentioned and don't sign them up right away.
So for example, we're looking to do maybe the Speechcraft to engage our current members who may not have signed up for Pathways yet. So we were looking at using the participants actually being members and mentoring through the participant being a member of the club already today. So if they gave 3 speeches, would those 3 speeches count in their Pathways because they're already a member, and we're essentially using this to engage those members in their pathways, to enhance them through their pathways? Could they do an icebreaker, an evaluation, a speech, and then an evaluation, and then every speech?
So for level 1, the first thing is the icebreaker,
Yeah.
which is part of this program. The second speech you have to do, as long as you're a member, is to do a standard speech and get evaluated on it. So that would be your second speech. The third speech that you do in level 1 is taking that evaluation and improving your speech. So there would be a third speech. So I would, if they're current members and you're doing a Speechcraft program for them, I don't see why it wouldn't count unless Dave or.
No, what I would say is I'd use those three, or it's actually 2 projects, but I would use those speeches for your Speechcraft program.
For those members.
As opposed to the, the standard
Icebreaker.
speech
Organize
craft.
your speech and get to the point.
Exactly. I would take, because you can modify the Speechcraft for what you're trying to do. It's a tool for you. So it's a great idea if you've got existing members and you want to run them through a Speechcraft program and they're just getting started. 1, 2, 3, here's your first 3 speeches, and Pathways has the criteria already built. You don't have to tell them that they're doing Pathways because they might be resistant to it.
But they would have to take the assessment, so they would know they're.
Oh, yeah, I suppose they would, yes.
I'm curious as the reasoning behind doing it as a Speechcraft if they're already members, instead of just saying we're going to, over the course of the next 8 weeks, modify our regular meetings. I mean, if they're already all members, why don't we just modify our meetings to say, hey, we're gonna take these next 8 weeks and really jump into Pathways and have these certain, however you want to do it. I mean, if you want to follow the Speechcraft agenda, go for it. But just having them make it more, we're going to do Pathways, let's jump onto it, instead of we're going to do Speechcraft and trick you into doing Pathways.
I think it's more we like I like the way that the topics that it covers.
Sure, and that's totally acceptable.
Yeah. Aspect of Speechcraft, I like
Absolutely.
that. And
so
we've got a lot of members, but only a small fraction have actually signed up for a path. And the rest are very hesitant. Okay, how can we engage them and educate them very quickly? So we've got a lot of new members. Let's engage them very quickly through the educational piece of Speechcraft.
I think it's a great idea. I think there's a handful of clubs out there that have a number of people that are legacy lovers, we'll call them, that just cannot or will not transition into it, but it is the way it is. So if you can set it up and call it a Speechcraft or whatever, say, we're going to do a Speechcraft, and we need 5, 6 current members and tailor it towards that.
Well, maybe we could call it Pathways Craft instead of
Pathways.
Pathways Craft.
And you got those handful of members that are starting the path, doing the assessment. You assign a mentor to them immediately, which more likely probably is even a newer member than them. But some of us have been around for a long time that are struggling to get in. That's a perfect way to engage them, and they're doing it together as a lot of these people that have trouble getting away from the legacy and getting into Pathways. It's like they're new members all over again. So I think it's a great thing.
Obviously this is something new for us. We hadn't thought of this, so thank you for sharing that. One thing with whether you have to choose your path before or after, level 1 is the same no matter what path you're in. So if you took those 3 projects and you said, this is our Pathways, this is our Speechcraft, and we're doing these 3 speeches, and then you could say, you just did the first 3 speeches of Speechcraft, of Pathways. I don't know why I seem to be confused between Speechcraft and Pathways, but
the only thing I would say to that is Pathways is made specifically for people to go through and learn the projects themselves. So there's, for some reason I can't think of the word, but there's tutorials, that's the word, and videos and those types of things that help you learn during the project. I think if you do it that way, I think you're going to take away from having the ability to learn those things.
I agree.
But I love the concept of, hey, we're going to take these 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 3 years, whatever it takes to say, hey, we're going to jump on the Pathways. We're gung ho on this. It's the new thing. Everybody jump on board. And so we change up our meetings a little bit. Great. But as long as you're getting the speeches in, as long as you're doing table topics, those types of things that are the 3 basic parts of the Toastmasters meeting, but still creating an event that helps people jump on Pathways. Love it.
Thank you, Ben. I have a form that I'm going to be sending around, and Ben has offered this up from the district, is that if your club is going to commit, and you have to prove this by a flyer or something to the sort. If you are going to commit to having a Speechcraft, the district will purchase the kit that you buy on Toastmasters.org to put on, which includes the workbooks, the coordinator's guides, the advertising. But the key thing is Ben wants proof that you're going to be putting that on, not just getting a packet and not putting it on. So if you are interested in it, let me know. Put your name and information on here. Have it go around, please, and I'll get in contact with you. And once we know about when you're going to have that Speechcraft, we'll be able to get one for you.
A general question. Speechcraft is designed for building membership.
Basically, yes.
Yeah. And I know my mileage may vary, but how successful is it in, if I have 6 people, top of head, how many am I going to get as members? I mean, what's the return on the investment?
My club has been pretty successful with this. We've had about 75% of the people that come in have been joining. Depends upon, you have to ask for the sale. You have to ask people to join. It depends upon how warming and welcoming and asking for the sale. You have to ask for it. Would you like to join? Would you like to come every week? Would you like to continue practicing everything that you've just learned? There's got to be some commitment from the members to try to ask for that. Join our club. We would love to have you here every week.
And you do your Speechcrafts at the same time that your club meets?
Yes.
So that there's no issue with
Right.
no time. If you meet at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday evening, and people show up at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday evening, then they know that you're going to continue to shop at 7 o'clock on Tuesday evening.
Correct. So I know I mentioned like advertising a community ed or adult enrichment program through a community education or schooling. Usually those are classes that meet in the evenings or something to the sort. If your club doesn't meet at that time, you may want to consider your outlet of where you're going. So, but if they can do it, if you can do it during the day and still advertise that way and get people in that way, definitely go for that. Well, I'm way ahead of schedule, 15 minutes, which is a huge amount of time.
Can I ask another question?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Slightly different question. Can you tell us, and I don't know whether you've got any experience of Speechcraft working in a corporate club?
Actually, I can have one of these guys help out with it, but it does in the sense of the employers looking at Toastmasters as an educational program. You send people off to Dale Carnegie for a 3-day session, it's cost you $1,000. You put on a Speechcraft, it costs you $20, which you might even get it free from Ben. And maybe $200 in food that you have to bring in or something. Still cheaper than sending one person to Dale Carnegie for a week for $1,000. So employers are going to be looking at it as this is a way to train all my employees for inexpensive. Do you guys want to add anything to that?
Sure. So last year, when we were meeting with clubs when we were meeting with companies and talking about Toastmasters, I learned to change the language a little bit. And we did not talk about Toastmasters clubs. We talked about Toastmasters programs. We would like to put a Toastmasters program in your company. And the lingo, between club and program is clubs are for fun, programs are for development. And I referred to Toastmasters as a training and development program or a professional development program. And when you're marketing your Speechcraft in a corporate club, it is a training and development program. It is a short period of time. It is a finite period of time, and it is low cost, high value. And that's really how you want to market a Speechcraft in a corporate club. And when you're finished, and I love what you said at the end, ask for the sale. And it's a simple thing. You have them kind of reflect on here's what you learned in 6-8 weeks. would you like to continue this journey? And give them the opportunity. It doesn't have to stop here. You see what difference the program makes, in this short period of time. There's still room to go. And we've seen corporate clubs thrive on this. It's one of the main membership driving programs that is proven successful time and time again over time.
Do we want to take a 5-minute break or do we want to get going? So let's take 5 minutes. We'll meet back here at 5 to 7. Restroom. Welcome back. CMEs. One thing that Michael and I were talking about, and you will notice this in your coordinator's guide, at certain points, the coordinator's guide does ask the participant to become speech evaluators. My club, when we attempted to do that, a lot of the people weren't comfortable with being speech evaluators because all they had done was an icebreaker. So they didn't feel comfortable being speech evaluators. But one of the things we mentioned is when we had the large group, you'd have six people come in 1 week, 6 people come another week. And if they weren't on for a speech, they may not have showed up. So put them on as a speech evaluator or off-counter and mentor them in off-counter, mentor them in timer, mentor them in being an evaluator. Do whatever you do to make sure they're coming every week because evaluations is part of the learning process. So thank you for bringing that up. And like I said, this is my club's interpretation of Speechcraft, and we had to adjust the program a little bit based upon people that we have participating. So the next section is going to be the fun section. And each week of a Speechcraft, there's going to be a speaker that does an educational portion. And this is going to be a more seasoned member of your club. And luckily for me, I have the best area directors in the whole district that have helped me out. I can say that, right?
You can. I wish you would.
And they all. Oh, sorry, Mr. Area Director. They have all volunteered to help out by being, for doing speeches for us. So the first week, you would have an educational speaker. And the first week is going to be Angela Feathers. She's going to be doing Toastmasters International, the Better Speaker Series, the set of presentations offering instruction on basic speaking skills. Tonight, Angela, Advanced Communicator Bronze, Advanced Leader Bronze, and Area 35 Director will present selecting your topic. Many years ago, Angela struggled for her speeches, to find topics for her speeches, until she realized that a speech can only begin with one word, and then a little bit of imagination. After her speech, you will be able to identify general sources to select the topic for a speech, get inspired, and narrow your selection to be ready to write your speech. Please welcome Angela Feathers. It begins with one word and a little bit of imagination.
First of all, I want to know if all of you have this page, please. The easier the better, and the sooner the better. That's good. However, I didn't know how to begin a speech. Madam Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters, and most welcome guests. That was me many years ago when I began as Toastmaster. I didn't know how to do that. I have many things to say, but not clue how to say them.
I was in Toastmasters, and I decided that I would jump and do the things in the way that everybody was doing. I needed to understand how was the way that people were doing, and I just decided I would follow. At the beginning was very difficult for me because I didn't have any clue. I not even knew about the timer that is there, and if you talk too much, that was there. So I decided that I would begin, I would be patient with myself, and I would be doing the things that I needed to do. So I began to go to the meetings as a guest and pay attention. It was not easy. I decided that I would be giving my first speech, the icebreaker. About what? No clue. I asked advice from my husband, and about I have a mentor, and they were pushing me, and they say, okay, you can't do that, do it. Yeah, I sit down there. I knew, I didn't know that I needed to write the speeches, so I sit down there and I began to write the speech. Nothing came to my mind. Nothing. Finally, I decided that I would begin to read the manuals. So I realized I began to receive more and more advice, and people told me that the easier way to do that was thinking about myself. That was good. Easy. So I began to think about that. I have many memories about Colombia, but I was living before. However, I was thinking, why to talk about that? People have many more important things to listen to than just talking about myself. So I said, sharing my personal life? Forget it. I'm not going to do that. Well, I realized that members in the club read the manuals, and they begin to prepare the speeches, and they decide on the topics according to the speeches, and also they according to the manual and the project that they are developing. And guess what? I began to understand that first of all, I needed to read the manuals, to read the speeches, and to select a topic. However, that was not totally easy for me. I decided that, yes, I have the personal speech, the personal topics, but I needed to do something else. Sometimes I needed to look for information. So what I did is I began to talk about my family. I began to talk about things, childhood and other topics. So I realized that there are two ways to begin to get information for the speeches. One, your personal experience, your family, your friends, your work, your hobbies, your dreams, and also the reference material. You have internet, you have books, magazines, news, the sky is the limit. So you have the topics. You have the topics, and you can talk about those topics as much as you can within the time allowed. So I want to ask you one question. What will be for you, or what will take for you to answer the topic and what to talk about the topic? And I give you a clue. Those are 6 words. Somebody? Okay, I'm going to give you the first one. Begins by WHO. Who? Okay. After that, you have all the WH questions. Who, what, when, where, why, and age, how. You already have an answer there, okay? The first one, you choose the subject, that is who, and after that, you pull out with all the WH questions plus the age. After that, you need to decide what inspires you. what is that thing that you want to talk about. It's something very important for you to keep in mind that you need to have passion when you are talking, when you are relating to the audience. So you need to add more and get inspired for that passion and for topics that you really want to have. The next is to be around the boundaries. What is your audience? What is the topic that you really want to talk about? What is inspiring you? What is the occasion? And also, what is the message that you really want to bring to the people? So let's take the page. As you can see, you have the sources, as I told you, get inspired, and also narrow the selection. And I want to run a very, very fast exercise with you. Do you remember what is the topic of this speech?
Selecting topic.
But the presentation that Karen gave, it begins with one word and a little bit of imagination. Okay. So I want that you please write in the exercise number 1. That's so you remember. It begins with one word and a little bit of imagination. Number 2, do you remember the words that are going to help you to get to the subject and also the context and the additional information that you are going to give? Who, what, when, where, why, and how. And the last one, I would like that you please remember this 9 and write a who. That who could be somebody in your family, can be a friend, can be a co-worker, a classmate, even a pet. And that will be the subject that you will be talking in your next speech. Madam Toastmaster.
Angela. So that is an example of the first speech that you would do first week of your Speechcraft session. If I were you, I would take notes of what people are talking about so that when the person who has to do that speech needs something to present, you can give them what Angela just gave to you. My next speaker is currently the Area 32 Director. Over the last three and a half years, he's meandered up the leadership ladder within Gold Medal Toastmasters as Treasurer, Sergeant of Arms, Club President, and VP of Education. So he has more than enough chances to introduce speakers as a person who knows what the heck is going on. With his small corporate club, here to break the ice for your, here to help you break the ice for your speaker with effective introduction, here's Joe Lytek.
Yes, and then first who needs, they at work, see, but I guess, thank you for the nice intro to my speech. Of course, it helps that I also want to give it to you, but I digress. Gosh, I tell this, introducing a speaker, not quite bleeding obvious, because it will, as most of us know, just seeing plenty of badge wearers in the room tonight, it will vary a fair amount depending on the person who's giving the speech you're introducing as Toastmaster. On the one hand, if it might be someone who just came out of a Speechcraft session, like we were talking about a bunch the first hour, and likely it'll be more like 45 to 60 seconds. Hey, this is member X's icebreaker, 4 to 6 minutes, talking about themselves. Enjoy. On the other hand, if you're someone like, Mark Marble in the back, or Ben, or others who might be level 3 in their path, or in legacy legend, doing book number 5, speech 2, whatever that happens to be, you might have to set up things like Q&A, panel afterwards. And that could take 2 minutes if you have to go through a mental list and check. All right, I got everything for the intro. So you definitely from the start have to be thinking about the person that you're playing leadoff man for. Second thing is yes, the speaker, presumably the speaker in a perfect world will have gotten with you ahead of time and given you a couple sentences of material that you could use for an intro to their speech, but it's not the end of the world if they don't. Trust me, just with Gold Medal and now also with Pillsbury, I know work life happens and some meeting days, just the speaker might, oh shoot, forgot to give that to you, and you might have to be a little bit more resourceful and know, hey, where are they in the legacy book they're working on at the moment, or oh, they're dynamic leader level 1 and do the detective work yourself as to just the project that they're doing today. Hey, we've all been through table topics, right? We should be able to do improv at least somewhat accurately at this point, right? Third thing with introduction, in my mind, be light, be brief, but get to the point while doing your introduction. This is a prepared speech at table topics length, but the focus is the speaker, not you. By all means, just feel free to mention the speaker once or twice, just maybe, hey, if this is their last speech for their competent communicator or level 1 on whatever path they're on, be sure to mention that, because especially in Minnesota, we can stand to be a little more intentional about celebrating achievement, right? But just make sure that you're just pumping them up without spilling the beans about what they're going to be coming up and talking to your club about. That's their job, and they can do that just fine just once they come up to the podium. Last, but certainly not least, in my mind, pay attention. Just as you're clapping and they're walking up to the front, just be sure to give them a good and proper handshake, just whatever side they're coming from. Sorry, Dave. Just during the speech, be sure to pay attention, just make mental notes possibly of some things that struck you during the course of the speech. And once they are done, again, just thanks and handshake, and be ready to give like a 25, 30 seconds, just summary of a couple of things that struck you from their speech, or just general thanks for getting up in front of the group and doing it again, because some people obviously, first speech, this could really be a real big deal for them. But, and last but not least, that could also be a shameless just memory prod for the speaker's speech evaluator. So like, hey, I need to remember that when I come up for my evaluation. So there's plenty of meat on the bone with doing an effective speaker introduction as Toastmaster, but hopefully you sell a little bit as to how it's not just straight and narrow. And Toastmaster.
So that is our session 2 speaker. If you're doing session 6, if you're doing 6-week or even a 4-week, those first 2 speeches would be during the first week of your session. The first speaker I have is Trisha Lund. She's joined Toastmasters to learn the art and etiquette of public speaking in order to become an effective public speaker and leader. She's working on earning her advanced communicator silver in the legacy education program and is just a few speeches away. She's a current Area 38 director and is also working towards her advanced leader silver in the legacy program. She'll be delivering her second speech from the Better Speaker series, which is a set of presentations offering instruction on basic speaking skills. The presentation is designed to provide club members with new speaking techniques and facts to help develop their communication skills. Her speech titled Speech Organization offers several strategies for planning an effective presentation. Please welcome Trisha Lund.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, for that introduction, along with introducing a speaker, which we just heard from Joe. And tonight I'm going to talk about organizing your speech. But a better way to help tell about organizing your speech, I also selected a topic to go along with it, thinking about Angela's speech beforehand. I work in finance. A lot of times I like to see things logically, chronologically, so it's straightforward, it's easy to understand. But then on the side, sometimes I'm a little bit scatterbrained and things are all over the place. And when I'm trying to write a speech, I got to figure out how I'm going to take all of this information and organize it. Prior to joining Toastmasters and becoming a speaker, you could say, I like to write. So a lot of times when writing, I liked writing the standard 5-paragraph essays, where you'd have an introduction, you'd have a body, and you'd have a conclusion. So with your introduction, you start off by telling whatever you're going to tell. So in this case, as a speaker, I want to tell my audience whatever I'm going to tell them. And then next, somewhere in my body, I'll have a couple of main points. Usually I shoot for 2 to 3, but it also depends on the style or format or type of speech that you're actually giving. And then I like to highlight my main points, and then I like to end with a conclusion by telling the audience what you just told them. So tonight I want to use the example of telling you about my 100th half marathon that I just ran on Sunday. 100 half marathons, it's a lot. And I want to tell you about it. So that goes along with the first point. Tell them what you're going to tell them. Now, in order to tell you about it, now I have to highlight some main points around that and create some type of organization. So I want to tell you about the finish line. And I want to tell you about mile 2 and mile 9 and the start. So when I'm thinking about it, I got to list these things out, and then I need to put it into chronological order so my story actually makes some sense. So I'm not telling you about mile 9 and then how cool mile 2 was. It just doesn't quite flow very well at the beginning. And then once I have those main points of the race, which I'm going to tell you about, I have to add an introduction and I have to add a conclusion. So that way I can bring the whole idea together. And one way to do that is to also create a mind map. So creating a mind map is when you create a diagram around that main point. So I'm going to use my 100th half marathon race. And then I'm going to just add some main points around that of things that I want to tell you about it. So an example of organizing your speech would be, for an introduction, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you. So this weekend, I ran my 100th half marathon in Las Vegas. I chose Las Vegas because I'm a 10-year legacy runner there. And it's the perfect race for me, where I'm going to have all of my family there and all of my friends.
Next, I'm going to go into the body of that. So now I want to tell you about the race. So I'll start with crossing the starting line. So I crossed the starting line with my cousin who wanted to be there for my important race. He also got into running to try to lose some weight and get some fitness back. And so he wanted to be there for my 100 half marathon race. So I crossed the start line with him, and then I left him in the dust, unfortunately. Not intentionally, but we just run at different paces. But he did end up passing me because I had to take a porta potty stop. So that's mile 2. But along with mile 2, I also stopped for a few photos in front of the Welcome to Las Vegas sign. So I like to do some fun poses. It's kind of fun. I don't quite have the finisher medal yet, but that's also a highlight, more so at the finish line. But mile 2, but photos in front of the sign. And then the rest of the race, well, pretty non-eventful. I ran fast. Faster you run, faster you're done, right? So I just kept on going. So thinking about my body of my speech, I'm not going to highlight so much about that because there's really not much to tell. So that's where it brings me to mile 9. So along the journey to mile 9, I was running down the Las Vegas Strip. They do close it down for all the runners. So I'm running underneath all the bright lights and excitement of the Strip. And when I get to mile 9, I'm in downtown, and then I get to run on Fremont Street, which is also lit up, which is very exciting because you do have more spectators down there. It's old Las Vegas. Sometimes you do see some spectators instead of handing out water, they'll hand out beer. It's usually where you see it, down that way. So it's always a highlight of mile 9. You typically don't see that kind of stuff in races. But then from mile 9, you start heading back on the Strip where you cross the finish line. So on my journey to the finish line, talk about mile 12. Mile 12 I remember because I was running next to a Southern Belle from Alabama who I met on the course. We were running the same pace, and we started chatting about, hopefully we can finish sub 2, but I had to stop here, and she told me she had to stop there. So it's another fun thing. You can make friends with others on the course from all over. So that was mile 12. And then where I get to the finish line, so I was able to keep running fast, cross the finish line, and when I crossed the finish line, it was amazing because with about 20,000 people running the race, it was just me. And then when I crossed the finish line, I completed my 100th half marathon, which brings me to my conclusion. So now I told you what I was going to tell you. I ran my 100th half marathon. My body, my main points. I added that into my body of my speech. And now my conclusion, tell them what you just told them. I finished my 100th half marathon, and it was amazing. And now I think I'm going to retire from running half marathons. So that's the example that I want to give with selecting your topic, like what Angela mentioned, and how to take that topic and create a speech and organize your thoughts in order to have a speech that will work well with completing, whether it's your icebreaker, researching a topic, or any topic that you think of. Just remember your introduction, your body, and your conclusion. Madam Toastmaster.
Very nice job. Thank you, Tricia. The next speaker you've heard all night long, and I'm going to keep this quick. Julie, you don't even need to time me. I'm the next speaker, and I'm going to talk about the general speech purposes. As most of you guys know, as Toastmasters, there's 4 main purposes of speech. The first one is to inform. That's what we've been doing all night. I've been informing you about Speechcraft. So that is a type or general purpose of a speech. The next one is to persuade. And this one is where you strive to change the attitudes of the audience. These are sales presentations. I'm sure you've heard a lot of this lately, political speakers, or campaign speeches. Those are in that area. The next one is just simply to entertain. These are the most fun speeches in that sense because it's very usually lighthearted. The last one is to inspire. And this is asked the audience to achieve a noble idea or goal. So for you to think about what type of speech you're going to present, you have to think about a specific speech purpose. And this can be summed up usually in one statement about the hope and accomplishment of your speech. But it should meet 3 criteria. And I am running through the piece of paper that everybody had, by the way, and you can use this in the future. Number 1, your purpose should be worded from the audience's viewpoint. What do you want the audience to be able to know after your speech is done? The next thing is it must be specific. The wording in your statement should be precise. And third, it's attainable. The specific purpose should be realistic and possible to achieve. So once you've decided upon your specific speech purpose, that should be hitting all 3 of those points. So for example, what if I wanted to do a speech about remodeling a bathroom? Is that attainable in a 5 to 7 minute speech? No, 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 no. But maybe I could give you a 5 to 7 minute speech about tiling a bathroom or something to the sort. Even that might be on, like, how about deciding upon a color of tile? That might even be a little bit more specific and attainable. I know for myself, that might even be longer than a 5 to 7 minute speech. But the idea is that with something like this, you're going to be informing. So that's the general purpose of that speech if I were to give it. The specifics are, what do I want you to know is how you choose a color of tile. So that's what I want the audience to get from it. It's specific, it should be precise. I want you to find ceramic tile for your bathroom. And is it attainable? And it should be realistic and possible to achieve. Can I get that done in a 5 to 7 minute speech? Yes, I can. Thank you. I'm trying to keep this short because we were running out of time, but if you don't have it, this is the general and specific speech purpose flyer. The next speaker that would be for session 5 would be Marvel. She has been involved in 3 Speechcraft events, and thinks that the Speechcraft program is an effective tool in adding new club members to a club. She's currently Area 33 Director and Assistant Division D Program Quality Director. She's been a member of Toastmasters for 10 years, currently working towards a Pathways DTM and a Pathways certification for mentoring. And she is my personal mentor. Welcome, my friend.
Have the slip that I have for you, and that is body language techniques. Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. We have a guest here this evening from Ashland, and he will be going back to his country in a month. And he is here tonight viewing us and learning about Toastmasters. I would like you all to please introduce yourself to him after. Please welcome him and answer any questions that he may have, as good Toastmasters do. With this sheet of paper, you have got 3 general categories of body language I'm going to cover in giving you ideas and why. I want you to make body language your superpower for speaking. I believe between body language, vocal variety are 2 of the most important superpowers a person can have. When I came out here, you heard me talking loud. My protege back there in the corner, if I would not have been talking loud, would have gone. That's body language. I have been told and critiqued before I start out too quiet. Can somebody tell me why?
Audience's attention?
No?
Nervous?
Yes, thank you. Yes, nervous. I have been a Toastmaster for 10 years. I joined Toastmasters. I'm a self-proclaimed introvert. What you see here today is Toastmaster, a product of. I would not be able to stand before you right now and do this if it wouldn't have been for Toastmasters. I will give the credit where the credit is due. I'm being evaluated this evening. Why? I'm going to get a speech credit. I will get a private evaluation orally afterwards. What is my evaluator looking for? Level 2, strategic relationships. I have given a speech. She needs to tell me what I possibly am doing wrong from the evaluation that I received before on that first speech. And what did I do? I had the fig leaf position. This is what they call the fig leaf position. Again, may I ask you, why did I use the fig leaf? Nervous. Remember, 10 years in Toastmasters, I still get the fig leaf. Now you know why I'm still in Toastmasters. I still need help. I still need a good evaluation. We have got in Toastmasters through the Better Speaker series in this handout that I gave you 3 ideas. We have facial expression, gestures, and the whole body movement. Facial expressions, I'm going to tell you a story. Marvel, give me an idea what I did wrong. Can't, sorry, I was a judge, not allowed to do that. Next year came. Marvel, please give me some input on what I possibly can improve on. And I said, talk to you later. I was not a judge. I could tell this person. This person was videotaped. I said to this person, you're talking and you're sticking your tongue out. After the person talked, that person was sticking his tongue out approximately 5 or 6 times throughout his speech. He did not even know that. What is it? Why am I fig leaf? It was a nervous tick that he had. I said, I know you don't believe me, and that person didn't. Yet, you've been taped. I'd like you to go look at that tape, and you're going to find out that you are sticking your tongue out. Gestures, many different gestures. I've shared the fig leaf with you already. Yet, there are gestures with these hands. I want you to know there have been a survey. I have written this down. Palms up. We're given instructions what to do with the palms up. 84% of the people follow the directions. Palms down. 50% follow the directions. Pointing. Only 28% follow the directions. When you're giving a speech, it is very important to have the palms out. This is more, I'm one of you. Oh, isn't that a cute baby? Friendliness, not, why did you do that? Would you like to crawl under the table now that I pointed to you? I think you get the idea of how important our hand gestures are, especially keeping these open. I'd like you to go to YouTube and watch the contest that we just had, the international contest, and you're going to see that the winner had her palms out. The 2014 winner has a talk on body language, palms out. Now, lastly, we have the whole body movement. Marvel, will you evaluate me? I'm going to do the evaluation talk for the evaluation contest. All right, I'll evaluate you. I was so happy that those that were the evaluators evaluating this person caught the same thing that I did. Room, very large like this. And the speaker came over here. And the speaker said a few things, slowly walked back again, said a few things to the others, and then the speaker came over here and never went back. I had to give an oral evaluation afterwards, and I said, you hugged one side of that room more than you should have ever hugged. And that is what the evaluators also said. What is another thing? Whole body movement. Pacing, too much pacing, back and forth, not slowly and deliberately. Everything with everything I'm doing is balance. With your facial expressions, your gestures, your whole body movement, it is a balance. And how do you learn that? Through Toastmasters and through your evaluators. Ladies and gentlemen, and our honored guest, please make body movement your superpower.
Our next speaker is Joel Hurst. Please welcome our next speaker, Joanne Hurst. She's currently the Area 37 Director and VP of Public Relations in her home club, Trade Masters. She's been a member of Toastmasters for 4+ years and is currently working towards her Distinguished Toastmaster within the next year. Please welcome Joanne.
Oh my God, oh my God, I've won, I never win anything. Wait a minute, I won $1. How disappointing is that? Do you notice from that paragraph that there was many uses of vocal variety? I went from the fast, high-pitched, excited version to the slow, sad, depressed version, knowing that I'm still going to have to go to work the next day and I can't give up my day job. This speech today, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters, honors guests, is about vocal variety. So let's get started. What kind of voice do you have? Do you have a musical voice, an easy listening to? Or do you have a harsh or monotone or even a tiresome voice? Ladies and gentlemen, it's entirely your choice. You can make your voice whatever you want your voice to be if you're willing to work at it. Psychologists have told us that people are 5 times more influenced by the voice than the spoken word when listening to a speaker. So think about that. That means that we are more influenced by how something is said than what we actually say. Let's just let that digest for a little bit. A good speaking voice is the balance between volume, pitch, rate, and a pleasing sound quality. So let's just evaluate those 4 pieces right now. Volume. Some people talk really loud, and all they know what to do is to talk loud. Whether it's on a call, in a conference room, all they know is loud.
And I had a manager that was exactly like that. And my first one-on-one with her, I was seriously intimidated because it was an extremely aggressive. And I thought I'd done something wrong and she was telling me off. But no, that's just how she speaks. So people with a loud volume really need to focus on toning that down and quieting their voice. Let's talk about pitch. A good speaking pitch should be varied enough to give a good emotion and conviction when you're having a conversation. So you don't want to have a conversation like Christina Aguilera or Mariah Carey would sing a song. They volume their pitch all over the place in the song. Hello, how are you? Did you have a good weekend? Not a good conversation. It doesn't show emotion, conviction, sincerity. So I wouldn't recommend that when you're actually doing a speech or having a conversation. On the flip side of that, I had a manager who had zero pitch. And for once a month for an hour, we had to listen to my manager give us a presentation on what we needed to know for our work. And for that whole hour, he had zero volume variety. He had zero rate adjustment. He had zero pitch variety. Everything was the same the whole way through. And I'm not telling you the lie. People did fall asleep. It was not exciting. I personally zoned out and had to go and look at the PowerPoint slides afterwards. Not very productive. So don't be that person, please. Let's talk about rate. They say the most recommended rate is to do 125 to 160 words a minute. That's easily achievable if you speak fastly enough to not be boring, but also not too fast so that you clearly understood. 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, when I joined Toastmasters, my rate was one rate, fast. I wanted to get through those speeches. I wanted to get through those presentations as fast as I could because I was so nervous. So I would talk really, really fast and I'd forget to breathe and then I'd have to take a break and go, and then I'll start again and do some more speeches and do some more words, and then I have to take another break. Don't be like me 5 years ago. And if you are like me 5 years ago, then you're in the right space because Toastmasters will help you through pausing, slowing down your pace and your rate. And it's helped me dramatically in my presentations. And lastly, let's talk about the pleasing sound quality. It's recommended that you relax your throat. Now, if you're me, you might be thinking, what does that even mean? Well, the OCD in me had to go and Google it. So I did, I went and Googled it, and they gave a demonstration. So I'm going to talk you all through this demonstration right now. And what they recommend is that you put the tip of your tongue to the roof of your mouth. And I know you're all doing this right now. And you count to 10. And then you relax it. And then you redo that. And you relax it. And so you know the difference between a tensed throat and a relaxed throat. And they say a relaxed throat releases tension and presents a more friendly tone when you give a speech. So next time you're giving a speech, make sure you do the exercise a few times before you come on stage to relax your throat, release the tension, and be a friendly, pleasing sound quality. So in summary, what have we learned? People are 5 times more influenced by how you say it than what you actually say. And that to have a really good speaking voice, you need to balance it between your volume, your rate, your pitch, and remember to relax your throat. Thank you very much.
Our last speaker tonight is Joanna Carley. She is the district training director for our district, and she's going to talk about word use. Joanna Carley.
Notwithstanding everything Joe just told you, it's important what words you use. Sorry. But not as important as how you say them, evidently. Sticks and stones may break my words can hurt and words can make huge impact. Words can transport you to another dimension, or they can make a 5 to 7 minute speech the most boring thing you'll ever sit. As you go through your Speechcraft and you learn about these different topics, we've talked about things like how you use your body, how you use vocal variety to get people to listen. We've talked about each topics and choosing what to speak about and who and what, when, where, why. But word usage is also important because it can make your speech either extremely meaningful or pointless. When we think about word usage, there are a few tips that we'll talk through tonight to get you started thinking about how you can use your words differently in your speeches. The first tip is to be short and to the point. Now, for some people, you may be a very fast talker and you really want to talk and you want to show off your fast vocabulary and you want to be loquacious as much as possible. And when you do that, it's really hard for your listeners and you may get yourself tongue-tied. Try to be short, to the point. Use an economy of words in your sentences and in your paragraphs. This also applies to the idea that many Toastmasters start out with is trying to fit way too much content in 5 to 7 minutes, as Karen alluded to. But if you make short sentences, short paragraphs, you and your audience are both going to enjoy the speech a little bit more. One of the other things that's really helpful about word usage is descriptiveness. Everyone close your eyes for a minute, please. What color shirt am I wearing? What? Cream? Green? Brown? All right, open your eyes. Now what word would you describe? Green. Somebody said cocoa earlier today, and I hadn't even thought about it being cocoa. But if I say cocoa versus green or brown, if I had just said I was wearing a green sweater today or a brown sweater, you could have pictured this sweater. You could have pictured a lot of different colors, right? Kelly green, forest green, army green, cocoa, tan, brown, cream. I often get made fun of in my household because my partner's a gemologist and his job is to know about colors and jewelry. And my color box says 8 colors. This is brown. But this isn't brown. When you're telling this story, it is your chance to take every listener away for a 5 to 7 minute vacation. Where are you taking them? To Brown Sweaterville? Are you taking them to a lush paradise where the trees are in their autumn colors, red and yellow and orange, and the birch trees have that little crisp white bark crumbling down off the sides? Totally different, right? So when we're thinking about descriptive terms, word usage is really important to help you take your who, what, why, when, where, and how and push your listener into it. I want to know exactly what your Nana smells like, what she's cooking for dinner. I want to know what it was like growing up in your house, what it smelled like, what it looked like, what sounds were happening in the backyard. As a speaker, you can take your audience to that place. But if you get too descriptive, so for FDA, we're using our PG-26 requirements, and even though CDP doesn't require it, I'm actually putting in the case and the PAC because it's not mandatory, but it does help us with better clearance. No? Nothing? Know your audience, know the level of descriptive that is appropriate for them. In that case, it might be easier for me to say, our team does some complicated work with US Customs, and sometimes we need to include additional data. Now I just saw 3 people's heads nod. Know your audience and how descriptive you want it to be. Here's some graduate level work. If you can, try to eliminate the use of things or stuff. If you're saying stuff to describe an item or an idea, you might as well just not say anything. But if you can say artifacts, or if you can examine the color of it and explain that to someone, that changes what you're explaining to them versus some stuff or some things. I was doing some things out in the yard. Well, no, I was hoeing or I was shoveling. You start to draw a picture for your audience. That's graduate level. That's not Speechcraft level. But ladies and gents, if you stay in Toastmasters past the Speechcraft experience, you'll be able to practice all of these things. You'll be able to take your audience to wherever you're telling them about. You're going to let them see the people that you're explaining and describing. You're going to describe for them the world briefly without going into too much description. And you will eliminate unnecessary words about things and stuff. Madam Toastmaster.
All right, we've got the last 5 minutes here. I do have the form if anybody is interested in doing the Speechcraft and was interested in getting the free packet from the district. Other than that, you've now seen the 8 different speeches and the 8 different sessions, 7 different speeches. Boy, I'm really struggling now. Time to go to bed, call it a night. Any questions before we call it a night? How many are you going to do a Speechcraft this
I have a
year?
question. Can I have all these people come and do these different things in my Speechcraft? You guys all did a great job tonight. Thank you very much.
There's nothing additional. I appreciate everybody coming tonight. I hope that you've learned something about Speechcraft. You may talk with your club about it and hopefully implement it. It's a New Year's resolution for people. It might be a spring rejuvenation. Whatever it may be, get people into your club and teach you about how to do public speaking. I will call it a night. Thank you, everybody.